Hey everybody, I just wanted to start this video off by introducing what we are going to be doing for the next 3 weeks in afternoon classes. I'm sure a bunch of you were wondering, what is this drafting that we're going to be doing today? So I'm just going to go ahead and put myself in the corner here and show you what we're going to be working on for the next 3 weeks here. So we are going to make some raised garden beds like this one. Dan and I built this as a prototype, and this is what we're going to be drafting today. So for the next 3 weeks, we're going to go through number one this week, a drafting phase. Next week, we will actually be building these, and then on the third week, we will be planting them. So hopefully by the end of this project, you'll get to see the fruits, in this case, vegetables, of your labors. So we're going to jump right into the drafting. So let's take a second and talk about what drafting is before we jump into this project. Drafting, in its basic essence, is drawing out a plan for something that you're going to create. In this case, our garden beds. And much like the rest of the things that we're learning about in Upward Bound, planning is really essential to attaining any of your goals in life. And it's going to be essential in making this bed. So I made this model here that you can see on the computer, and I also made this little one that you will be able to actually see, and you will be drafting today off of this model. So what is the challenging part about drafting? Well, the challenging part about drafting is describing this, our garden bed, a three-dimensional object on this, a two-dimensional plane. So let's first talk about the dimensions that this bed has. This bed has a length, it's got a width, and it's got a height, right? Perfect. So we can describe this on a 2D plane by drawing this 3 times. And you're probably asking yourselves, why did we color code this? Well, this is what our 3 different drawings are going to be of. This is what's going to be on the graph paper that was handed out to you. We're going to draw a front view, a side view, and a top view. This is also going to match up with this drawing that we will keep up for the entirety, so we can grab the dimensions off of this, so you don't have to worry too much about that. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. So let's just talk about this layout for a drawing quick: the front view, the top view, and the side view. When we do something like this, all these drawings, you will notice, sort of line up with each other. We don't have to do too much work with the measurements at all. And we like to call this particular way of drafting an orthographic projection. And it's the standard way to draw any type of architectural or mechanical plans. So incredibly useful. So I know I'm probably going to lose a lot of you because you're saying, hey, wait a second, I can't draw. And that's totally okay. That's why we have the draft paper. So let's get started in looking at that. So really quick before we jump over to our graph paper, there are a couple more things that we need to know about these things. One of the things I had mentioned previously was about the dimensions, which you can see here, and scale. So I'm going to talk about these really quick. If you don't know how to read this, that's totally cool. What this little apostrophe here by this 1 on the side view means, that means 1 foot. And if you see the quotation marks, that means inches. So this is 1 foot 2 inches, or because we know a foot is 12 inches, it's also 14 inches. So remember that number, 14 inches, for a second. The other thing we need to talk about really quick is scale. And scale essentially is just a way of miniaturizing something. And just like we talked about, we can see that this is inches. So we're making 1/2 of an inch equal 1 full foot. So we're going to use that on our graph paper, so we're not drawing on huge sheets of paper to draw this entire thing. So we're going to jump on over to the graph paper here. So we're going to use a scale for this drawing that one of our boxes equals an inch. So what type of lumber are we using on this? How are we going to go about figuring that? Well, we have 2 types of lumber on this box, or on our bed here. We have 1x4s, which make up the sides and the bottom. And we have 4x4s, which make up the legs here. And I know a lot of you, if you know anything about wood, 1x4s are not actually 1 inch by 4 inches, but for today's purpose and making this really easy on our graph paper, we're going to say they are. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and start on the side view here on the green side, and we're going to go ahead and try and describe one of these 1x4s that runs along the side before we do anything else. And we're going to make an orthographic drawing of it really here, just so we all understand the basics. Well, we said we know 1x4 is 4 inches this way. So we're going to go ahead and draw that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you remember when I said what measurement this way was? 1 foot 2 inches or 14 inches. We're going to draw that on here now. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 14. Cool. And then we go back up 4 inches, right? And then back over. Great. So now we have a front view of this side piece. So let's draw the top. What else do we know about 1x4? Well, we had the 4. So what about the 1 inch? And just like I said when we were looking at the orthographic drawing, you can come up, and there we have our 1 inch. And now we have our top view of that piece, right? Cool. So we can do the side here if we want to. So 1 inch again, right? 1 inch on the side, it's skinny. And there we go. We have an orthographic projection of one of these pieces of lumber. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the rest of this side piece and point out a couple of other little tricky things before we go any further. All right, so now we have all of our 1x4s drawn for the side. Well, actually, you might notice you can see part of the red actually has a green part on it, but it's the same piece of lumber. So we want to make sure we had that little skinny side just like we had when we were doing the orthographic view of the one piece, because it's just the side profile of this front 1x4. So we're going to draw those in really quick. Just like this. There we go. Perfect. And we have one more thing missing. I'm not going to draw the legs exactly to the scale here, but I know the full length of the leg is 3 feet. or 36 inches, if that's helpful. Great. So how do we start that? We notice that the leg is ever so slightly indented the width of this front piece of 1x4. So we know that the leg starts here. So we'll just pretend that extends down and go over 4. So great, we got a leg. And there's the other one. Well, there's something that's tricky about this because we know that the 1x4 doesn't stop here, right? We can see it in the top view. So we need to make sure that we know that this extends all the way up. So we know that it's overall 3 feet. So we need to describe that the 1x4 passes behind, or the 4x4 passes behind the 1x4 here. So the way we're going to do that is to draw in dashed lines. And this might be very familiar to you if you've ever had to draw something like a cube with a hole in it before, if you're familiar with drafting at all. So I made my lines a little bit too big there, but that's okay. Happy accidents, just like Bob Ross says, right? All right, great. And don't forget these little support pieces for the bottom down here. That's really important as well, because I know we can see some here, right? But we're going to have to make some more dashed lines, so just be wary of that. So now that we've drawn this side together, you're going to go ahead and continue drawing. You're going to have to do the front and the top view all by yourself, but I have all the confidence in the world that you can do this. Really quick, I'm going to make myself big here again. Before we wrap this video up, I just want you to think about something while you're finishing the rest of your drawings. So next week, we are building these things. So you're going to have to divide your group, your class, into different jobs. So we're going to have 4 different jobs. We're going to have some people who are managers, and those are the people who you think really nailed the drawing this time. You think they have a really good idea about how to visualize this process and put it all together. Then, I already mentioned the second job. We need some people who are going to use some screw guns or drills to attach all the pieces. And obviously, we're going to need some people to cut down the piece of wood. So we're going to have some people sawing. If you're really into power tools or you feel comfortable doing that and you want to be brave, we want to encourage growth. However, we don't want to make you do anything you feel unsafe doing. So if power tools aren't your thing, you're not really sure how this thing goes together, that's totally fine. We have options for that too. Our 4th option is painting them. Yes, we're going to paint them to weatherproof them a little bit more because if you haven't noticed, we've been getting a lot of rain. Perfect. The other thing I want to mention is because next week we are building things, please wear appropriate clothes to get sawdust or paint on. I don't want you to ruin your good clothes. So just think about that, and we will resume next week. Best of luck with your drawings. We will keep that orthographic drawing that I showed you up earlier on the screen, and the model, scale model, will be in the room. So, bye.